affect a guy my age, does it at all?
Nowadays,
Well,
Yeah.
on my ass. It damaged my Achilles tendon.
oh,
So I'm thinking I just twisted my ankle. So I wait 2 months to get it fixed. And then I really,
There's still 2 weeks of
go, I'm paying for it now.
yeah, so anyhow, wife screams at me and I go in the boot, I'm in the boot. Don't walk out of it, fair's coming up, so I'm walking about a couple miles a day on it, wear the whole boot out.
A worker no matter what.
No, my sister-in-law, my brother, July. And
Yeah.
I had one and on. So 1 year we had three babies in 3 months. That was quite a year.
Second one. I had about, 6,000, 7,000 miles. I tell my wife,
Then you get those time.
yeah, I got both my tires. So anyhow. Get down there. Not because I'm old, because I don't want to hurt the person's back when I get on. Standing on the seat, my left foot in the stern. Sitting over, wife says, "You're about 10 feet away," she says, "What popped?" Tore all the ones in the back.
Really?
I'm just standing still when I get it.
That foot in it.
You what?
Spur.
Well, I've got 14, 16 wide feet, so I gotta make my stretch.
There you go. Get us in trouble.
It should get better after a bit.
I hope it's getting better, but I've heard that Achilles heel.
Yes, don't be a joker, wear up great news.
We need to sit like a little box fan or something in front of them. No, you're pretty living on your hands. I should have bought one.
You're supposed to not know it.
How many times?
We'll make it.
Tim?
And the way about, see, mom and dad, they lived out towards Fairfield. Dad, for years, dad. Well, yeah.
You been doing okay? Did you talk to your secretary? Did she tell you what she said to you?
Who knows?
She's been at it for 34 weeks. She called up, I was calling her. She's in the therapy. I said, I don't think so. Got,
We got the feed with stuff to it.
I gave her a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, we got an ultimate. We'll see.
Can we submit any more when we find other things?
Yeah, we can adjust it.
I've decided that the damage to the,
Checks itself.
not dancing.
I'm not running races, but you know, I enjoy from here to there. Typically, I wear a tennis shoe, but you know,
To destroy my leg permanently.
I'm not a tennis shoe person anyway. And so it's just,
I'm beginning to wonder.
Well, I damaged a tendon,
Yeah.
but,
my
then screwed around to get it fixed.
space is along that street there, handicapped. So there's nothing. I guess I technically maybe.
Probably could have gotten away.
So, just there is the
You got me back, kid.
like,
Switch seats with them. They set them out that way.
I feel dejected. I moved up to West Virginia. I think that's more of a,
I got in trouble because they moved me this way.
if you put me up close to the guys in the middle, I'm gonna get in trouble all the time.
Plus, the thing about this thing is that when you're sitting here, you know most of the people that you're dealing with.
I think I'm leaving for the first one. I'm leaving for the first one. I had to get contact with
Yeah, the technicality is you have a financial interest in it.
well, if you've been approached by demonstrators, I have. So because I can't.
You're cautious, you can't do it.
I can't do it. I can't. I know that.
I think it'd be fair back to get
And she says we have to. So I'm like,
If you feel that way, I think you should. It's not paying enough for middle language.
well, I know. That's why I'd rather just go out there.
He's gonna go be one of 6 others anyway, so you're running slow.
Yeah. Well, I thought. Well, I thought.
last month. I mean, you had some conflict, I think, personal, but why
I'm close to mine.
the farmers? There's still one houses in there. Well, I have to tell you, if I owned farmland, well, it's back on. I mean, if I owned farmland and somebody came in and said they were gonna build houses next to me and it was my peak, I would say, I would, you know, I mean. He does a beautiful project in every place he goes, so I couldn't figure out the hesitation. But I don't know him personally, but he's a nice,
I know him personally.
nice guy, and he does,
We do a lot together.
he does, you know, I've never seen a Mike. I really
he's not
couldn't
done
afford,
about it.
I couldn't afford Mike Duke to build my house, frankly, so.
I didn't do it. I had to stay. Terry's fault.
It's always
Let
my
everyone
fault.
do it. You guys have opened up.
My
Every
name,
meeting.
I did not vote for it.
I understand.
I did not vote for
What's that?
it. Rubio. Rubio.
What is it?
Shouldn't have been approved, but Don and Brian already was one too for
How are
I
you?
wasn't gonna do it.
I am exhausted. I was outside all day.
All day? That would be exhausting.
Dustin's
Tell you,
fault.
that would be exhausting. Why were you outside all day?
Work.
Really?
It's just north, triple time.
It's right
Tough
next
luck.
You mean Overton?
No, it was at an actual golf course. But
Oh, I'm surprised they played golf today, to be honest with you.
I didn't want
I
to.
think I might have
I did not want to. But
entertained my guests and allowed them
I
to go
thought you were talking
home.
about some
So do we
subdivision.
still have people here complaining about the Mike Duke thing?
It's not cleared out.
Everybody's hesitation on that last month. I mean, I was chairing the meeting, so I was hesitant to.
and I was.
You got everybody stirred up there. Look at that. Huh? You got them all stirred up in here tonight, don't you? I don't know any of them. You don't?
I couldn't afford you to build one. We talked to him, couldn't quite get there with him.
He does a nice project, nice development.
So anyway, that should be a slam dunk tonight. I'm sorry? Well, we didn't act on it last, you know, so.
Who's Cam?
I got some other issues, but that's my buddy. He does a good job.
Like 50 people drove down my driveway to scream at me.
art show. He what?
Heard that he sold to the river, he sold that big chunk of
Yes, I read that.
Did he? I forget where that was.
right there, 144 part of it's in Morgan Park.
Last time I was with you, we were in a hot air balloon. I was gonna say,
Quorum, don't we?
Yeah.
Well, then go.
We still got 5 minutes.
Oh.
Do what?
It looks nice.
How about Brian?
what did they do?
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get everything together here. Not sure about Mark. He's our first one, right?
He's still not happy about it. I talked to him about it 2 or 3
I
times.
know the family.
He's still not happy about it.
Well, not close to them at all anymore, but
Ruby
This is the
Overton
first one.
Lane. Ruby Lane.
Fry.
Yeah, right across from me. Ruby Lane.
Yeah.
And Hopwood's the last one.
So what they end up calling it?
I've got some corrections I gotta make on that one.
It's not bad.
I don't have issues with doing it. I talked to Mike, I got some issues that need to be straightened out. What is it? From?
That enclave they put in across from there is not. Not much, is it? I hate what they're doing up there. This sheeping, sheeping.
Extremely busy.
Ready?
I go get a procedure October 13th at 6:30 a.m. up at Methodist, and it's kind of four specialists, neurosurgeons that's been doing a procedure on me, and it's more like a exploratory deal, so I don't know. I still don't see how they're gonna, I don't know. My other neurosurgeon wanted me to go with Mayo. He said that if you don't want to do that, he said, there's another option. He said, there's a group of surgeons up in Methodist. And
Well, I have this thing, but it's a partly across the community group, and you should read the stuff.
Do we know if Mark's coming or
they can
not?
do an exploratory deal, kind of like they put your stents in there. He said, they can go up there and look and everything, and he says, they can see a lot, they video everything, and he says, that's the last resort that I'm going to do before you just would have to. He says, you can go to Cleveland.
1
He
minute,
says, I
right?
think Mayo's doing better, so I don't know.
well, you know you're under a lot of stress. I know that all the time. You get like,
You get to sign next.
I'm not worried about stress, it's a pain. I just can't get
good relax. Are you sleeping good every night?
Oh, heck no. And I tell you, I take pills for that, but
So your family's expanding again.
Do what?
Sue tells me your family's expanding again.
Yeah, by 2.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
See, does Neil have one already?
two tries about leaving. Work on me. Well,
So what do you want to
it'll
do?
work out. Got a couple in. Trying to slow me down.
That's right.
I'm trying to listen.
To approve the agenda to flip it.
Maybe you didn't think he had to come.
I got off tonight at 5.
I mean, technically,
5:30.
If somebody coming in there, or
Worked there, talked to the wife for a minute, got in here.
Got her place and come back.
I just saw somebody walk.
One.
no, there he is.
So we can go ahead. I'd like to welcome everyone to our August 23rd meeting. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight on short notice. The chair recognizes a quorum, and if you would, please stand and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, I'll call for a motion.
The minutes as sent.
Mr. Rumball moves to approve the minutes. Do we have a second? Mr. Maxwell seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is approval of agenda. Any additions or corrections to our agenda? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Move to approve.
Only approve, moves to approve.
Second.
Mr. Hale seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on our agenda, old business. Public hearing for minor plat MIP 2308, the Grove Development LLC is requesting a 4-lot minor plat on 35 acres located at southwest corner of New Harmony Road and Flake Road in Green Township. The property is zoned ag at this time.
Mr. President, I'm going to step outside for this one.
All right?
Yes.
Okay. Need to recuse yourself then? Okay. What's his name? Hmm? Barkowski. Okay. Mr. Barkowski, are you here to represent? Your address?
Yep. Name's Andrew Barkosi with Barkosi Surveying.
Cozy.
Here representing Grove Development to subdivide this 35 acres into 4 residential lots. Lot sizes are between 4.95 all the way up 15 and then 9.34. The lots 1 and 2 on your drawings, there's an existing gravel drive. They're going to share that for access. And the other 2 lots are going to have their own different access points onto those roads. Lots 1 and 2 will probably be built on pretty soon. Those are kind of who they have as buyers for those 2 lots. The other 2 lots, really no big plans, just to sit there until somebody comes across and wants to build on the lot. So we're meeting all UDO standards and zoning ordinances and everything for a minor plat through Morgan County. So if you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Which 2 did you say you had buyers for?
Well, lots 1 and 2.
1 and 2?
Yeah,
The
on the
15
east side,
acre and
correct.
the
The
5
shared
acre?
drive, yes. I believe it's part of a deal he's working.
Okay. No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like to speak?
Yeah, my name's Christian Spurlock. I'm the current owner of New Harmony Road. I just want to say I think Grove Development's got a good plan for this. It's not like it wasn't offered to the public. It was on the market for 2 months. Had several inquiries. No one ever wrote an offer. My aunt's the realtor. I listened to the last meeting from home on the YouTube channel. Not trying to make a bunch of money here or anything. It's me and my wife are getting divorced, so that's why we're selling it. It's been well taken care of, bush hogged, everything's followed in the ordinances and the zoning. But that's all I've got to say. Thanks.
Hang on for a second, sir. Any questions for Mr. Spurlock? No? All right, thank you. We have a few people signed up for opposition. Mr. Stanton, would you like to speak?
My name's Dennis Stanton. Address is 7155 New Harmony Road. And I live just down the way from this place, probably about a quarter of a mile maybe on the opposite side of the road. Farmed there since 1978. You know, I started out small and expanded, you know, as acres become available and as other farmers retired. So I've been there a while. Tonight, you'll probably hear some redundant things that we spoke in the last meeting as well as tonight. So on these issues, so be prepared, you know, among my neighbors. So it's not that it's trying to make it boring or anything, but I want to make sure that you know that it's not only me that are concerned about these, but also the neighbors. So you're going to hear some redundancies. All right, let me reiterate on what I spoke of last week, not to bore you or anything, but it's pretty much the same. As I mentioned, I talk about best use. And I've heard this term thrown around a lot among the committee meetings. But what does it mean? Best use can mean different things to different people. And that's why we attach the pronoun for whom, best use for whom. And as far as agronomy is concerned, this soil on this plot is best suited for crop production and for, you know, and for a building site as well. But let's talk about first the crop production side. This area contains a Fincastle type soil, maybe 80% of the area. According to the soil survey map, and you guys probably seen this, it's probably online now, but I use the old book. That soil type is one of the 5 best in the county, and I think it's the second best in our Green Township. So a grower is lucky to have this type of ground, such as this. It makes crop production or farming sustainable. As far as a building site, according to the soil survey book, it's mostly flat, but considered wet, poorly grained, and is slowly permeable, and or slow to perk, which is not good for the septics. I did notice that they already sent somebody out to do a perk test on that after I mentioned that last week. So I'm sure that they would want to refute the book that I brought tonight. I would think that when we use the term best use, one would think you would want to preserve these type of soils for crop production or sustain livestock. There's not much areas left in the township with these types of soils, and one would think there are far more and better areas that would be suitable for such activities. As a matter of fact, there are far more areas in the township for that than crop production. So, infrastructure. As I mentioned at the last meeting, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I stood in front of the commissioners speaking to them probably about a similar issue. And after I spoke, Norman Voiles, and most of you know who that is, Norman Voiles asked me a question. He asked me, how are the roads out my way? And I referring to how busy they are and how safe they are. And I told him at the time it wasn't too bad. Had to be careful, but we could move freely, safely with my equipment, tractors and implements and such. Very few problems. If I was asked that question today, I would give a negative response. With I-69 limited access, additional houses going up here and there has become very hazardous. To do this with large equipment, with more obstacles, mailboxes, additional telephone posts, fences, planted trees, more power lines, driveway culverts. I said it's become a safety issue now. Just on my road at the McLaren's Hill, there are 4 blind spots in that area. It's narrow, no shoulders and gullies at the edge of the roads, barely wide enough for 2 vehicles. And I brought some pictures today I want to pass out to you folks, if you would. Here, bear with me if you would. Let me put this here. Only got 4 of these for you, so you'll have to share.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, if you notice, I thought I brought 5 copies, but I guess I did, unless I gave one of you 2 copies. I'm not sure. We were moving equipment. This is after last month's meeting, so we just happened to be moving equipment. So I said, I'm going to take some pictures. So while moving equipment, we took some pictures, and if you notice, there's 9 pictures there, starting progressively, going down into the hollow. That's one blind spot. Once you get down at the bottom, there's another little rise. That's a second blind spot. Then you go around a sharp turn, 90-degree turn. That's a third blind spot. And then when you break up over the hill, that's 4th blind spot. Now, as you see, you can see my equipment is pretty wide there. So, I mean, it takes up most of the road. And my equipment ranged from 17 feet to 14 feet. And I believe the road is only about 15 to 18 foot wide. I think last week, I told Kenny I measured that, and it was about 17 feet there in front of my house. It's very dangerous for the unexpected driver, for me to maneuver. Trees on one side, fence on the other, almost impassable for us. So if we meet, someone has to back up. This is... I know since last week's meeting, there's been 2 wrecks on that road, not necessarily in this area, but out there toward me. I don't know where the cars were passing. I don't know the details, but that's kind of unusual. As I said last week, there have already been 2 wrecks, and also last week, if you remember right, I've already taken out 2 mailboxes and some young lady's driver's side mirror and quarter panel because we were passing. And so I had to buy a couple of mailboxes and fix this poor lady's mirror. So it could have been worse. Also, I know we don't count close calls, but I've had countless close calls. So with 4 or 5 homes going on this location, it would be safe to say there would be 3 vehicles for each of these houses, which would make 12 to 15 additional cars maneuvering up and down the area at all times of the day. It would be even more hazardous for me and, for that matter, for others. Traffic is already quadruple in the area since the limited access to I-69. They have to pass this area to get to the 2 access points that are left because they've taken out some of them. The car interval has gotten shorter. That's the distance between cars that has drive by. So, slow-moving equipment, grain trucks makes this area very congested. I don't think painted lines on the road or additional signs would reduce the hazard for this area. It's really not the road that's unsafe, it's the traffic. So, next topic is the quality of life. If you could ask me, if you could ask most of these folks that live in that area why they moved there, the answer would be many, but the common thread between all of them would be the rural country. The country life, the quietness, the fresh air, the country beauty, open fields, unpopulated areas. When we start these types of activities, minor plots, developments, the quality of life goes away. We lose that rural environment and make it very undesirable over time. And if you look on your comprehensive plan, there's some statements in there that you're trying to preserve those things. So that's a very long document. I won't get into that. I don't have time for it. As for me, it makes my life more difficult and hazardous for me to conduct my business. This type of development and agriculture does not mix. I can't operate or function with residents and traffic close by due to the periodic noises of crop production, equipment movement, odors, working late at night when times are tight. It's just not compatible. As you have seen elsewhere, when these types of developments move in, the farmers move out. I would do the same. I will shut down the farm at this location and sell the land, only do the exact same thing. High-density housings. I may make some enemies among neighbors, but I would have no choice. I have 2 unassembled grain bins right now sitting on my place and a grain leg waiting, and I'm waiting to see how the future of this area is going to pan out. I don't want to invest in putting them up and then the area become unviable just to tear them back down. As I said before, that's why people want to move to the agriculture areas such as this, because of the open spaces, peaceful view, not a row of houses, lack of hassle, bustle, and housing development. They don't want to see that. I know last week, Mr. Brochu, I forget his name, Mr. Brochu, the guy that spoke, he said there was other housing developments that were similar to this in the area. Well, there's only 3 that I know of that's kind of in that area, and they were not done necessarily to these type of proceedings, okay? I believe one was put in when Mr. Boyer, is that right? Mr. James Boyer was a commissioner, and he waived all the zoning rules, and I think that's when they went in. I don't remember the dates of that, but because I tried to look that up, I couldn't find anything. So I think the others were done out of the normal procedures, as the same as some of you on the board may know. I don't know the particular bylaws or violations, but I'm sure you probably know them. So that's what I had to say about those. Closing. There's more to this type of development than just checking the boxes, okay, on the form for your approval. There's more boxes to check that aren't on the particular forms. As you heard from me tonight, you will hear from others. You can't check those hidden boxes because they have not been satisfied or satisfied the requirements of the neighbors and the people there. I hope you don't feel like you have undue pressure to do this. This is not how the system works. You should feel completely free to choose how you vote without prejudice, because you represent us. When outcomes happen to you, they happen to us, okay? And I am asking you to deny this tonight to satisfy those hidden boxes that I spoke of. Just because you could don't necessarily mean you should. So
Is there any questions?
Any questions? No? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Ainsworth?
I think so.
Ainsworth? Carrie Ainsworth?
Yeah, I was here the last time too, and of course y'all cut your electricity off before we could come back again. So, but my name's Kerry Ainsworth, and I live at 4471 Flake Road. I moved there in 2018, and I chose Morgan County because lower taxes, rural area, and I like the idea of having crops surrounding my house on all sides. It was like, okay, I'm back down in Mississippi where I was raised and where my mom still is on the same farm, and just, it was real summer. So now, Miss Slagle, that lived on that side of this property that we're talking about, she passed away, and Christian, he bought the property. When he came out there, he said, you know, he was gonna keep it agriculture, and he was talking about planting crops and turning it into even some livestock out there. Well, now things have changed. You know, I'm sorry for what's going on, but now we're talking about putting in a 4-house subdivision. I'm gonna call it that. And now we're gonna have 4 more people, 4 more houses, 4 more septic systems, 4 more wells have to be dug, 2 more driveways, and so now we're gonna increase the car load, the traffic load. Then it's gonna have more people on the road, running up and down the road on the cars and everything. I know in your comprehensive plan I read it for 2019, you're getting pressure from the other counties, and then our part of the county is the part that's getting designated as high intensity, and then it kind of double talks at the side of its mouth and said wants to preserve the farmland at the same time. So I don't know where, you know, it's like, okay, over here we want more taxes, but we want to keep the farms going over here. So I don't know what, you know, where you're looking at it on that. It's some pretty good farmland, because Dennis farms the Flakes land, and it's on the other side of me. And they got some deadgum good-looking soybeans over there this year. So if it would have been planted like it's been in the past since I moved there, it was planted, and I have 1.5 acres behind, and it got planted along with that 35 acres. So I hadn't been planted in 2 years because there's nothing. It used to join together, and the farmer farmed all of it. So, you know, when they sell farms, like it just say, when Miss Slagle sold the farm, 35 acres, y'all think about it, oh, that's just 35 acres. Well, another farm goes down, say, hey, it's only 40, oh, because it's only 40 more acres. Every time we lose more farm ground, y'all want to put more houses on this stuff. I just can't see it, you know, so got to increase, you know, I saw something in the paper the other day about the budget, wanting more firemen, hadn't got enough budget to pay for the firemen, we're still using volunteer firemen because there's not enough money to pay for full-time firemen. So you add more houses, that's gonna put more stress on the firemen out there. You know, the roads. I just don't want to be in another, you know, if I want to go to Center Grove, I can drive 15 minutes and be up there. So that's all I got to say tonight.
Any questions? No? All right, thank you. Tim Flake?
Hi, my name is Tim Flake. I live at 4445 Flake Road. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this evening. I'm seventh generation living in that community in Martinsville, Indiana. Out there in Green Township, my family has farmed that land for many, many years. When I grew up, I farmed the property that's in question. When my aunt Mary Lou Schlegel passed away and they decided to sell the property, the family sold that property with the intention of that land being used for farming. And we were just so excited because other communities around, other farms around the area had been sold for development, which if development's going in the right spot, it makes sense. And I want to give you an example. There's all kinds of hilly country around where there's beautiful trees and wooded areas where you can't farm, and I think those are great places to build houses. The property that we're talking about today is flat land. As Dennis said, it's got some of the best soil in Green Township. I think he said it's ranked number 2 in the city for the farmland. So I would petition that this committee take into consideration that this is great farmland that can be used for farming. And if we want to keep our heritage in Indiana as farmers, I think this is some land that should be maintained as farming. It just so happens that we still have the farm owned by my mother, which is the adjoining property that both gentlemen had talked about. And I want to see that kept in the family as farm ground in the future too. So I have a strong interest in the heritage of Indiana, the heritage of farming, and certainly, like I said, there's plenty of places in Green Township to build pretty homes in the woods. I also want to share with you that a lot of cities in the United States, cities and towns, as they're developing and growing, they spend money in the infrastructure to make sure that the roadways are safe. In Green Township, that hasn't happened. The little road that I took off 37 to drive back to my house when I was a kid, which has been many years ago, where it was very dangerous and there were always accidents on the road. It was the corner that Dennis was referring to. There's been a number of accidents there because the road is so narrow. That road is the same condition that it was when I was growing up. I'm gonna be 59, so it's the same condition that it was practically 60 years ago. There has been no infrastructure changes to support this growth. What Dennis was talking about a second ago is if one car were to come around this really dangerous corner that turns onto Flake Road, New Harmony, if one car passes, it comes at the same time the other car comes along, if you're not driving about 20 miles per hour, you're gonna hit the other vehicle. If someone were coming around that corner and Dennis was driving one of his trucks and they collided, they're gonna have an accident. There's no option. So I guess I have one question for the planning committee is 2 cars driving on their side of the road, driving what they think is a safe speed, and those 2 vehicles crash, who's at fault? Is it car 1 or car 2, or are they both at fault? And what happens if there's an accident? So I think if that begins to happen and Green Township's infrastructure cannot support this growth, I think people will start to look deeper at is the planning taking place as it should be to make these communities grow with the housing without having adequate infrastructure. So if you haven't been out and driven through these areas to see how bad some of these corners are, I encourage you to do that because it's very dangerous the way it is today. And the more you keep adding more houses without cleaning up the infrastructure and making it safer, there's the potential for some serious problems, in my opinion. So I'll summarize by saying, love Indiana, love the farm ground. I think we need to preserve some of our history. The farmhouse on Flake Road, that's my residence. We're going to get our 100-year Heritage Award in about 4 years, and I'm very happy with that. And I'm happy to know that throughout our country, that even though our communities are growing, we're still keeping some of the heritage and some of that heritage that we need to have for the long term. Otherwise, everything's going to be just one great big parking lot. So I'd like to stop and see if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah. Mr. Spurlock, when did you buy that farmland? 2022. And you bought it at a fair price. Why didn't, was it offered to other farmers around there that didn't want to buy it at the time?
I think Dennis was interested in it, but the price that was paid for it exceeded, the family got a better offer. I think the best way to say it
So
is,
you sold the land for better money.
oh, no, I never owned it. It was
Well,
my.
your family owned it, and you sold it to him for better money. Now, he's
No,
wanting
no,
to do
no,
the
no.
same thing.
No. My dad's sister, my dad is deceased. If you think about it, that property some time ago was about 350 acres. When my grandfather died, he split that into 5 different properties that were all sold. And so the property that's in question was willed to my aunt Mary Lou Schlegel, who owned that up until the point that she died about 2 years ago. I didn't sell that property. It was my cousins who sold that property.
But it was still a family property sold, right?
It was relatives.
Relatives, and
Yes.
you all benefited from the sale of the land, right?
No.
Well, my point is, it was up for bid. He bought it less than a year ago, right?
Yeah, it was back on the market March of 23.
And his life has changed, the way I understand it. So he's wanting to sell it, the same thing you guys did, because you didn't want to sell it to farm ground because it wasn't going to bring enough money to farm ground.
You're misunderstanding. I did not have any interest.
You're missing the point, sir. I know you didn't have it, but, I'm sorry, guys, but you sold the land, your family or your relatives sold the land, rather to sell it to a farmer, you sold it to, and man was going to keep it in farmland with no instructions of him farming it himself.
Cousins, my cousins.
All right, well, it's still
My cousins
family.
inherited that property, and they sold,
All right, this isn't going anywhere right now, so. Any other questions for Mr. Flake? Thank you, Mr. Flake.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevens?
My name is Ben Stevens. We live at 7926 New Harmony Road, which is directly across the road from this property. We live on the north side of the road, whereas this property is on the south side of the road. We've become good friends with neighbors out there. Dennis farms our farm ground on the front of the property, and we have learned to abide with and live with neighbors that are out there and get along. The reason we bought property out there was to live a rural lifestyle. I wanted our kids to grow up in the country where they had room to ride motorcycles, dirt bikes, shoot. We've got 3 boys that shoot competitively on a clay sporting event team, and they practice a lot at home. So we end up shooting a lot at home. We have tried to end that shooting at a certain time in the evening as to not interrupt neighbors, but the way it is now, the closest neighbor we have is Dennis, who lives half a mile down the road. So us out there shooting doesn't really impact or affect the neighbors that we do have. If this subdivision goes through and we have neighbors living directly across the street from us, my concern and fear is that we'll have the sheriff out there, we'll have complaints, we'll not be able to have the freedoms that we do now, even though we don't try to abuse the times that we shoot, but we have 3 boys that are on a competitive team and they need to practice, and home is a place that they can do that. As far as safety on the road is concerned, like I said, our kids ride 4-wheelers, dirt bikes, go-karts, everything on our property. They don't get out and ride on the road, but there is traffic that drives entirely too fast the way it is now on the road out in front of where we live. And my concern is that if our kids take the 4-wheeler or whatever up to our mailbox to get mail, that there is going to be more traffic because of this neighborhood. And it's already an unsafe situation, so to add more traffic to that makes it complicated. As Dennis mentioned earlier, it's pretty common to pass farm equipment on the road. It's not a wide road. We have a full-size motor home, and I know that when we are exiting the property to go to wherever we're gonna go, we kind of run into the same situations that Dennis Stanton does. The motorhome is wide, there's not any kind of shoulder to get off of. So you either have to stop completely where you're at and give the other person time to pass you, or vice versa, you pass them, or back up. I have a patient in my office who works for the Morgan County Sheriff's Office, and he has told me that there have been numerous wrecks on that road. There is an S-curve just to the east of this property and where we live, where he's been called out to multiple times for accidents and accidents that have killed people. So it's already over-traveled, it's traveled too fast, and I'm afraid if we put more homes in on the property across from ours, we're just adding that much more traffic to it. So again, the biggest reason we bought property out there was it was surrounded by farmland. There was not a subdivision or a neighborhood anywhere near where we lived, and that's what we intended to raise our children on. So we would prefer to keep it like that. We think that's the best use for it. All the property around there, with the exception of the few neighbors that we do have, is farmland, and that's how we would like the property to remain. So I think I've kind of said everything I wanted to say. Are there any questions or?
Any questions for Mr. Stevens?
You lived there,
So we bought that house in October of 2019.
2019.
Yeah, so we've been there for,
It's all part of that George Kopetsky property that
Yeah,
he had bought
so
out.
George
Part of the
Kopetsky,
PUD.
yeah, owns all the land around us, and, yeah,
Acres do you own?
we own 15 acres.
15?
Yeah. And I've talked to George numerous times to buy more property, not to do anything with it, just to have more of an insulation between us and neighbors and stuff like this subdivision. So at some point in time, I would like to buy considerably more ground than we have to keep it as the ground is now, not to do anything else with it, just keep it as forest land and farmland.
I'm not mistaken, there's 7 or 8 homes that he's actually sold property right there around yours, just to the east of yours and everything, I know.
So there's 3 that I know of, and it's my understanding that he kind of went around the regulations and rules and sold the property to those property owners when it was not coded right for residential housing.
He did it legally, yes. I will say that because I was plan director at the time and it was done legally. The PUD property that he bought all that property, no, he has not developed that. But what was ag, he started doing ag and zim splits and he did all that legally by the ordinance then.
Yeah.
But I just know there's a slew of houses out there.
Yeah.
And I feel for the farmers, there's no doubt, because I mean, I have a low boy and I pull it on that road quite often, but I don't have to go past New Harmony. I go New Harmony to Perry Road across the interstate, so.
Yeah.
It's, but it's curvy, crooked.
Yeah.
I've been out there on Williams Road quite a bit. I got good friends out there and also a few on Paradise, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's narrow.
I mean, it's about a quarter mile off of New Harmony that we live, but we can hear cars and they race way too fast through there the way it is. Here recently, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was an accident on that S-curve that's just east of where we live. And they had multiple officers out there and a fire truck and some other equipment to clean up the mess.
Yeah, it's.
So I think having a neighborhood go in just adds more traffic to the situation. Like I said, my kids don't get out and ride on the road, but they ride up to where the mailbox is. And this is not the first mailbox that we've had. We've had to replace it a couple of different times or put it back up in place. I don't think it was Dennis that hit it. I think he would have been nice enough to tell us. But somebody's hit it, right? So it's a concern of mine for my kids to go up there and be able to get the mail, which is something they like to do, ride the 4-wheelers into the driveway, grab the mail and bring it back. So more traffic is, yeah,
More possibilities.
right, exactly.
All right, Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Leslie Stevens?
Hi, mine is short and sweet. I'm Leslie Stevens. I live at the same place as Ben, 7926. I have all the same concerns that he does with our kids. Another concern I taught at Center Grove for a few years, and I saw the development that has happened in that district. Our kids went to school there for a few years, and there's a reason we ended up moving where we did. It was a house that was already there, so George did not sell that to us. It was the house that he actually bought. It was on the property. So it was owned by someone else. I think it was built in 98, 99. So we noticed there are a few newer houses, but ours sits off the road. It's one that was there before George.
Back to a real long driveway.
Sorry?
Long driveway to the
Yes,
north.
yep. One of our favorite things, you can't see the road from our house,
Yeah.
but you can hear the traffic, and we constantly tell the kids, be careful out by the road. That about Center Grove is, we moved out there, I now teach at Indian Creek. We like the rural lifestyle, and just seeing how quickly Center Grove developed, we just don't want to see that happen where we are. So that's all I have.
Any questions?
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Would you like a rebuttal?
Again, Andrew Barkozy with Barkozy Surveying. Just kind of want to go through a few things. We are meeting all the zoning for agricultural. Our lots are, 4.9 is the smallest lot. There's actually houses out there and next door that are much smaller lots. The density is very small. I know they keep calling it housing development, but it's really just similar to everything on the west side of Flake Road. Those are all 5, 6 acre, 4 acre tracts. There's multiple homes. I haven't done a calculation, but it's probably actually more dense than what we're proposing. We are only adding 3 driveways. There's actually 2 existing parcels, so technically we're only adding 2 more residences that could possibly happen here to a 35 acre tract, which is pretty less dense. As for the roadways, they're old county roads. That's just kind of how they are. We are dedicating right-of-way with this minor plat, so the county's technically getting land for free to hopefully maybe improve the roads that are out there. And again, we're meeting all ordinances and all rules that are specified in the Morgan County rules. So if you have any more questions, I'd be more than happy to help them answer.
The driveway in already?
Correct. They had put it in already, I believe.
I was looking at the aerial.
And that's the one that's going to split between lots 1 and 2.
That's between 1 and 2?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
You got any idea on the price range of the houses you think may go in?
I do not. Grove Development is Duke Homes, so.
What, pardon me?
The Duke Homes is Grove Development.
Mike Duke?
It's Mike Duke. So they will be up there, I would assume.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this closes the public portion of our, no, wait, Laura? You come up after the public. Would you like to come up? And Ms. Parker? Not Mr.
I think you all have my handout and my staff report in your packet. It's unchanged from last month, which was to recommend support of this request. It does meet all the requirements that we have spelled out in the UDO for approving minor plats. That's why we created those rules, so that developers, individuals in the county wanting to plat property know and understand what those rules are that they have to meet. It's not ambiguous, it's not subjective, it's defined. So I'm just here in support of the UDO, and that's why we have those rules. So we may not always be happy about what changes that's next to us that we don't control, but if we have the rules and they've been met, the board's required to approve it. There's been plenty of case law and state law that backs that up. So I know there are other factors that contribute to their concerns, such as traffic, but you generally don't build new roads in advance of the need and the demand. The county just simply doesn't have that kind of resource. So it is identified in the thoroughfare plan for upgrading in the future. I have no crystal ball. I have no way of knowing when that's going to happen. A lot of that ultimately will be a result of the development. And as a couple of them noted in the comp plan, yes, this area is considered higher intensity. It is where the county has identified for residential growth and development to occur because it is a little bit flatter, already has connections from a traffic standpoint. There's not a lot of infrastructure there now, which is why that PUD didn't happen, because there's no water or sewer available for higher density. So it's likely that we're going to see more of these types of minor plats that can be supported with septic and well versus sewer and water. Should those utilities be extended to that area, it would probably explode much worse than this. But, 4 lots on 35 acres is not dense at all. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
You did say it meets all the requirements of our ordinance?
Yes.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
This closes our public portion of the hearing. Any discussion, comments? The one thing about the issues with the septics, we have no control on the septics. We plat it, and it's up to them to get their septic and water in. I mean, we have no control over that. So that was one of the concerns, but we really have no say on that. It's up to the health department whether they can do it. They can plat it, and if you can't build it, you can't build. Is how it basically is, so. Any comments or questions or discussion? No? Well, I will call for a motion.
I move that we approve minor plat MIP-23-08.
We have a motion by Mr. Floyd to approve the minor plat. Do we have a second?
Second.
Justin, second. All in favor of the minor plat, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Opposed. Motion carries. This is about a mile. Where's Jason at?
How are you doing? Working too hard, not getting paid enough. Thought I was gonna melt down into a puddle today. I seen you walking around like you're struggling a little bit. Huh?
I told him we forgot him the one time.
Walking a little slow coming into it like you had the heat of the world on you.
Oh, I got it. They can't get it out.
Recused himself.
2 hours one day and. One other doctor said it was totally something different. He said, it's come to a head 3 times in 4
I mean, nothing we can do about that anyway, I'm sorry.
We don't get the root of the seed. Well, that's what I say, it's a root. Keep coming up.
Business, public hearing for vacate replat, RP 2305. Michael and Susan Fry are requesting to vacate lots 30 and 31 in Fox Run subdivision and replat them to one lot. The lots are located at 1262 and 1278 East Fox Run Drive in Washington Township. The property is zoned R1. Ms. Fry, are you representing, or presenting, excuse me?
Hi, my name is Susan Fries, and my husband and I have looked for almost 2 years to find a place to move to, and we just couldn't find something that fit the boxes, so we purchased the 2 lots in Fox Run, which is absolutely beautiful, and all we'd like to do is to combine the 2 lots so that we don't have to squeeze the house on one or the other. The house is going to be a solid brick with stone gable, very nice. According to the code of Fox Run, we've read all the provisions and everything, so that's all we're planning, what we'd like to do. Any questions?
Do what? It's just west of Foxcliff South, yes. All the roads aren't in yet, are they out there?
No, they are,
A lot of them aren't in yet, right?
most of them are, there's just around the corner on 28 and 29, it's rough right there,
Yeah.
but they are into our 2 lots. So, and trust me, we've talked to the neighbors about things that we need to do to finish things up, so.
Okay. Any questions? Nope, all right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
What else was that it? That's it? We have no other one signed up to speak? Parker, do you have anything to add? Should be there. I didn't know if she had anything she'd like to add.
The only thing I just wanted to add is that we've had several of these in this area, and it simply helps get the house on there and also the septic. Sometimes they end up being on separate lots, but Fox Run doesn't mind combining the lots, so they meet all the requirements for a vacate and replat. So I recommend approval.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This closes the public portion of the hearing. One thing I will say is that subdivision's been around for quite a while, and in my opinion, if we can get rid of a lot and have a larger lot in there, I'm all for it. So, yeah.
Who's responsible for finishing the streets, the roads?
The developer went under?
So it's up now to the residents?
Yeah. Yep. That's the only comment I had. Any other comments, or if not, I'll call for a motion.
I move to approve petition RP-23-05.
Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Hale, second. All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed? Motion carries. What else we got? Mr. Hunt. Guess that was you need to sign, or you bring it? We'll move on to our next one. It is a public hearing for minor plat MIP 2309. Holloway Engineering, on behalf of Hopwood Investments LLC, is requesting a 5-lot minor plat for a portion of property located at 10810 North Rooker Road in Brown Township. The property is zoned ag. Mr. Larison, if you would. That's hard to see.
Thank you.
Printer
I'm
bad,
John Larison from Holloway Engineering. I'm here tonight with Keegan and Shayna Hopwood. They're the owners of this 46-acre parcel located at 10810 North Rooker Road. This is just outside of the town of Mooresville town limits. And they are seeking approval of a 5-lot minor plat. I've given you an aerial photo overlay that shows that the 2 acre.
It's a little hard to look at, John.
It's a little dark, isn't it? The 2 acre lots all front on Rooker Road, so there will be no additional road building. These are really large, I think ideal country residential lots. They're 2 acres in size, 190 feet of road frontage, which by today's standards is quite a wide lot. And these lots will be serviced by Hill Water. And we have also had the soils test completed, and the soils are actually suitable for below-grade septic systems, which is becoming more and more rare, especially in Morgan County. We've got a very advantageous depth of topsoil on these properties, so they will not require mound systems. They'll all be traditional in-ground systems. Having sat through the previous couple of public meetings, I hear an awful lot of, we moved out here to the country and we love the rural lifestyle. And unfortunately, none of us are going to get the last one built. These lots will sell immediately. We have people showing up at the surveyor's office looking for vacant land to build on, and there simply isn't any. What is available is in a platted subdivision with 8,000 square feet of property. And many people, if not most, move to Mooresville so that they can build a home and have an outbuilding, maybe a pool, and not live right on top of their neighbors. So, you know, with all due respect to the previous crowd, this is rural life in Mooresville. You know, Indianapolis is what, the 13th largest city in the United States, and we're right next door to it. So we believe that these are the perfect size lots for the town of Mooresville. This is what people tell us that they want, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Larison?
Is that land behind these lots, is that farmed?
It is. The entire the Shanklin home fronts on Rooker Road, and then the entire back field is farmed, and 30 acres of this property will remain in farmland. All of that behind, and we've also left a nice wide opening there for farm equipment to move in and out through on the north end of the lots.
Is that drainage easement on the bottom, John, is that going to the pond that back there?
That goes to a
lake?
creek.
Oh, it goes to a creek?
And then to a pond.
Okay, I thought there was a pond
Yeah,
back
there's a
in
little
there.
creek between, really just a,
Yeah,
drainage
swell.
way.
Yeah, drainage.
But we wanted to provide that
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
you need to
perimeter
drive-
drains.
Yeah. And they own the property to the back behind it, correct?
They do.
Okay. Any questions? No? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
David Langley, would you like to speak? Nina, would you like to speak? No? Keegan, would you like to speak? You guys, both of you are good? All right. Well, That's easy. That's easy, thank you. Well, we don't need a rebuttal, so we've got a recommendation from Ms. Parker. Would you got anything you'd like to add? That closes our public portion of the meeting. Any discussion? No. All right, I will call for a motion.
Make a motion that we approve minor plat MIP-23-09.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rumbaugh seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, John, I don't know what this is, but boy, it is. Did you have a hay field back there, or what is that?
Actually, it's a very, very thin bean field.
Is it?
A bean field that
Didn't produce very well? It's just all those lines. It's really weird looking. We will move on to our last item on our agenda. It's a public hearing to vacate and replat RP 2306. William Davis, on behalf of the Perrigan Volunteer Fire Company Incorporated, is requesting to vacate lots 3 and 4 in the original plat of the town of Perrigan and replat them as one lot. The lots are located at 101 and 121 East Union Street in Perrigan. The property is B1 at this time. Mr. Davis?
My name is William Davis. I'm the fire chief of Perrigan Fire Department. The reason why we're wanting to replat this, we came in to get a building permit to add on to our station, and it was going to be crossing one of the property lines that we own. And the young lady said we probably ought to get this all put together as one lot instead of being multiple lots. So that's the reason why we're requesting it.
My understanding, you're going to connect the buildings, is that what you said?
There's a building there, if you look on that one plan, it says Old Barber Shop, there's a block building. We're wanting to enlarge our kitchen in the fire station, so we're going to connect from the fire station to that block building and use part of the block building as part of the kitchen area. There's a wooden room on the back that will be removed off of it and not put back on. We've been approved by the state for the permit. We're just waiting on your guys' approval and approval here and everything, but our kitchen's pretty small in there. It's only like 8 foot wide and maybe 15 foot long. So this will make the kitchen 3 times the size.
Make a nice
Part
kitchen.
of it be dry storage and stuff.
Yeah, okay. Any questions for Mr. Davis? No? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else signed up? We have no one else signed up. Ms. Parker, do you have anything? You don't want to talk tonight, or what? Well, this closes our public portion of the hearing. I will say, I have talked with their surveyor. There's some things I'd like to change on the plat. And it's just technical, just how things need to be placed on the plat. I have no issue with doing this at all. I think it is fine. They split off that, years ago, they split the old barber shop off, and that's why there's two different lots. There's actually 3 parcels in there right now. It's gonna make 1 parcel. It used to be 2 lots. It's gonna go down to 1, and I'm fine with that. So it's just, before I sign the plat, their surveyor's gonna come in and we're gonna make some corrections to the plat before it's recorded.
So do we need to note that in a motion for approval?
Yeah.
There are some changes
Yeah,
to the
some
plat
changes
that
gonna be
you
go to the
would
plat
like
that
to
I'm,
make.
that I would like to make. Yeah, to the standards, yeah. But I'm good approving the plat tonight with my corrections. Any other comments, questions? If not, I'll call for a motion.
I would move to approve with the surveyor's recommendations, RP-23-06.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Mr. Maxwell seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So, you used to be a comment, you tried to call me? Not me.
You recycle somewhere?
You trying to call me? Yes. Well, I don't know why it's not working. Your mailbox was full. Oh,
Mr. Peden, do you have anything for the Plan Commission at this time?
well, have to check it out. That's your girlfriend all the way down there in white. Oh. Just making sure you is gonna be here. I called them tonight. Oh, this was yesterday, I think. No, I might have been today. I called them this afternoon.
Ask her if you get
I thought, Lord, because I put 4 on that. I kept on looking at those.
The case was filed in May of 2022 on a violation alleging a nuisance by a neighbor against another neighbor. The nuisance consisted of a bright light that was positioned on the defendant's barn, shining against the complainant's property, going through the trees. A light that was so bright that they had to pull the curtains on their bedroom to keep the light from intruding. So the ordinance does not expressly address the situation of a bright light or what to do about it. So it came down to the concept of a nuisance under Indiana statute and the Morgan County ordinance. So the judge found that the bright light was without any good cause, possibly a result of a friction within the family. But at any event, the bright light had not been corrected. It was still shining against the neighbor's property, and it could have been easily corrected, but was not. So the judge found in favor of the Plan Commission on the question of the existence of a nuisance under our statute and code. And the result was the judge assessed a fine of $2,000, which would be suspended if there was compliance with the hooding of the light or aiming the light in a different way that it wouldn't bother the neighbor. And also awarded a fine of $100 per day if the violation continued after 30 days. And the court assessed, pursuant to the ordinance, assessed the attorney fees against the defendant in the sum of $6,490. So that is the outcome of the case. So it's been substantiated that aiming a bright light, especially if it's done maliciously against a neighbor's property, could be a nuisance under our law.
So he did fine for our, we get our costs back then, our court costs?
You don't get it back till it's in your pocket.
Pardon me?
As a judgment of the court, yes. But
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant, the court judge, yeah, the judge.
It's a judgment.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a judgment. Now we gotta
I agree.
try to collect it.
All right, thanks, Mark. Anything else? That's it? Ms. Parker, you don't have anything at all? We have no plan director report, so our next meeting is, we do have agenda items, correct? Okay. Next meeting is September 11th. I will call for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
I'll be in line at Dairy Queen.
To hear what we already heard.
I know they were thinking, these people aren't paying attention.
I should have just motioned last time.
Maybe September 11th.
But I don't know why. Everybody was so hesitant. I don't know if anybody had motioned, if they would have voted for it or not. So, I didn't. Well, okay. I'm headed north.
Good. Be careful walking a half mile back to your car.
I told him I want him to get all the metal
Where'd you
shavings out of New Quick.
I parked, I didn't know what.
Well, how did, Mr. Jetty's reopen? Did it do? It's open now.
Oh my gosh, this place is stupid. All the
Well,
time.
I've been to two on Sunday and one on a Thursday night, and it was getting late, and it didn't look like there was a parking place.
They didn't change that.
There was, you could have probably got 5 more.
My report,
cars in the
too.
parking lot. I don't know.
I don't.
Because that was on my report. Yeah.
Or on that new road going.
We'll have to have you sign that Paragon one once I get it taken care of. But it's,
That's in the budget.
Just what they're doing. And I'm like, okay, so if you pull the groundwater out, which is a,
just let me know.
is a resource that we're really concerned about, we're pulling it all out, and then, do you think that
I did.
groundwater
I
doesn't
agree
ever
wholeheartedly.
come
Reach back?
Just because you pumped it out, don't mean it doesn't come back. My grandpa, all the years he drove a combine, he got a combine stuff one time, and they were picking, helping someone that's farming.
that's the same one I used to.
He lived close to
Those are signature
What
pins.
is that? Did they plant sunflowers there one year?
Yes.
What's up, Bill?
I can't.
I have other pens.
I open it up and it's to a floodway, I don't think. So I think it's their trenching there and trying to build it up.
Oh, okay.
I had a whole box.
Bell and I
You have to go a lot higher. That's, I mean, it's swamp. Always
I don't care how high you go, the way they work that gutter is being put in the sink.
Well, I quoted Terry when he said that one of these days Artesian, no, Artesian, Road or